Hello, and welcome to Just Another Real Estate Podcast, where we'll speak with Arizona's most successful real estate professionals to better understand their business, current market conditions, team and business building strategies, successes, and challenges. This podcast is brought to you by Dwell Inspect Arizona with your host, Sean Garvey.
All right, let's get into it. Today on Just Another Real Estate Podcast, I have a very special guest. Well, they're all special, but a very special guest with me, Kevin Valle from Valle Home Group. Today, I want to take a little bit of time because we've had some great conversations over the years and kind of dig into your experience and your career as you've been developing your real estate business. So I've gone over your name, Kevin Valle, Valle Home Group. Tell me what got you into the business.
Absolutely.
What's your path to becoming a realtor?
First, I'm honored to that you actually mentioned that we have years of knowing each other. You're not like this random guy. So at least you admitted that you've known this crazy guy for years. I got into real estate in 2016, and because one of my really good friends at the time was an agent for a while, and he saw that I was just working my butt off doing I was bouncing at bars. I was in school for personal training. I had a personal training company, and I was selling vitamins, which sounds as sketchy as what it really is. And so I was doing all those four things to live in a studio apartment. And he was getting all the new cars every couple months, and he was living, buying houses, and he was just a couple years older than me. And I was striving. I had the dedication, motivation to do something and monetarily, but I just loved helping people. And so that's why I stayed with personal training, the vitamins, that kind of stuff. Bouncing, not so much because I love people, just that was more so because it's good money. But the personal training route, you really get to help people. And so he's like, you can help people and make money doing it. Give it a try. And so in 2015, I started for the course. It took me about 6 months to get all the way through, balancing everything. And then within 3 months, I was up and running after getting licensed, and never looked back.
So you took all that passion for helping people, all that hustle, and then applied it into your business. If I remember correctly, you had a really, really good first year or first 2 years. Is that correct?
Back in 2016, I started in May, and the first year, mind you, it was the average house was probably 200,000. I think I helped about 15 people in my first year, and so it equaled to be about I think it was about 5.5 to 6 million in volume. Wow. And then every year it's been slowly going up, more and more people, which has been just fantastic. Knowing that each year people trust you more and more.
I mean, that's incredible, because I think an average or a norm, and I'm just going to make a generalization so the facts aren't right, but probably most real estate agents in their first year maybe sell a house or two. And then the average agent in general sells less than 5 houses a year. And in your first 6 months, you found 15 families or 15 people to help acquire their home at $200,000, which right now would be, a godsend.
I wish we could find $200,000 houses now.
Yeah, it's doubled or tripled from there.
Yep.
So that's phenomenal. So right then you saw pretty immediate success, but it all hasn't been, straight hockey stick up. You've gone through ebbs and flows of motivation, and we'll dig into that later. But let me circle back a little bit. Outside of business, tell us a little bit about yourself, hobbies, family, kind of define what makes you.
Yeah. So married. My wife and I have been married for 2.5 years now. We got a pup, Bo, a little mini Australian Shepherd, and we love to rock climb and hike and all the activities. But I think what you find most about us, and everyone that knows me knows that I'm always inviting people over to play games. So all my friends in the circle group, and all my clients, they all know board games and card games are where the fun's at. And usually, I can't tell you how many of my past clients that I never knew before they started working with me have become great friends, and that are now on like a weekly, monthly, or quarterly schedule with me playing board games and card games. So
Awesome.
that's that's one thing to know about me. If you're playing board games or card games, you have to send an invite to me so I can learn something new. And I love that community, that fellowship time, and then just getting together with people and strategizing and using your brain is always fun.
So using your home or bringing people into a sphere of influence to develop a community. What's your favorite card game and board game that you like or rotate towards?
That Yeah, so there's a game called Joker,
Okay.
and a friend of mine who's a bigger game buff than I am introduced me to both my new favorite games. But Joker, which is like Sorry, but I guess more of a grown-up version of it, and then it's going to be between Monopoly Deal and a game called Minion. And both of those games are good, but Monopoly Deal, it's not what you think. It's only 10-minute rounds, and it's fun little card game.
On.
Yeah.
So you're not sitting there for hours.
No.
If
It's
I
you
remember
can get
correctly, Monopoly is about the acquisition and sale of real estate. So it kind of fits
can
the image.
you can already believe that I charge the most rent at the table, besides my wife sometimes, and get all the properties I can.
You've changed all the bucks with your face and your information on there.
Yep, they're kept bucks now.
Kev Bucks. That's awesome. I appreciate that you do that. So let's dig into your career. It's a decent segue into that. So you told the story of how you became a realtor. Was there a moment where you realized that this was the path for me? Like, you get your first couple deals, or was it before you even got your deal, or something like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it really started clicking, about 6 to 8 months in. About 6 months in, I had already started having several friends that wanted to join in the industry, and they started coming through the real estate school at the brokerage that I was at, and seeing that I could share that passion with them. Some of them were even past clients of mine already, and it was either an insult or a compliment. They're like, "Hey, this guy can do it. I definitely can." Or, "I had a great experience. I want to provide that experience to you." I'm going to go with the second one. Okay.
Yeah,
I had a
yeah.
great experience, so I want to provide that experience to others. And so when I realized that I could help as many people as I could, and found out that home ownership was the single most expensive thing that most people do in their life, and it
Mhm.
puts a roof over their head, it allows memories to be created, it should bring joy to people for years to come. It really was a light switch in my head. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And people ask me all the time, what are you going to do when are you going to retire? Do you see yourself anywhere else? And I always tell people, I will be in real estate for the rest of my life. I won't be
Mhm.
selling houses for the rest of my life, but I will be serving people in real estate for the rest of my life.
Nice, nice. And then, what are some helpful resources that you've used or that have come your way as you've been growing and taking your path through um, becoming a better and more successful agent?
One of the resources is called Sean Garvey.
Yeah.
Um, as far as resources, do you mean like platforms? Do you mean lead generation? Do you what do you mean by resources?
More specifically, things you've drawn from to create experiences to make you better, to be a better agent. Do you have a coach, or have you um, read books, anything like that?
Yes. So all of the above. I have a coach, several mentors, love reading books. I set a goal last year to read. Um, I, I set a really audacious goal to read a book a week, which if anyone knows me, I'm not a reader.
Yeah.
At least I'm not a fast reader. I love reading, but I'm not a fast one. And so I ended up with about two a month. And so I've been keeping that now steady for the last year and a half. I've been doing 2 books a month. And I think you don't need to have a person in front of you or someone to call on the phone as a mentor or as someone to almost coach you along. What these
Uh-huh.
people have written down through decades and decades of experience and through much success and much failure can teach you all that you need to know. Now, having someone to have a conversation with and that you trust and rely on and respect is very important. But the amount of knowledge you can get from books to help you along your career and be a better person is
For sure.
is great. So yeah, I mean, you can see just some of the books behind me. Those are just some of the favorites. But
Even
you
close.
know, I have an entire armoire downstairs, and then now everything is digital. I make it sound like I'm an old man. Now everything is all digital. So the Audible library is stacked.
I mean, that's cool insight too. I picked up on something that you said that's really important, and I've noticed as well. Like there is a difference between a mentor relationship because you have somebody that has a three-dimensional conversation with you, but you can learn so much from books and podcasts, and you can have these mentors or guidance coaches that you've never even met and that don't even know you, but they're in these little earbud things, um,
Mhm.
and you can hear their voice and form those pathways. So you talked about having a coach and some mentors. Who are some of your coaches? And then how did you kind of develop that mentorship relationship with them or mentee relationship with them?
Yeah. So, oh man, I've throughout my career so far, there's been so many people that have impacted me, and you know, I wouldn't be the man that I am today, and I'm not the man that I'm supposed to be yet without the relationships that I've created. And so, like as far as mentors, I mean, just right when I first started, you know, you jumped into my life probably what about 4 or 5 months of me being in the business, and I
Yeah, I think so.
clung to your hip ever since. And
Yeah,
then you know, like you know, the Jurors family really helped me a ton. They're the ones that got me started in this business.
yeah,
Um, Brian North just was phenomenal impact in my life, just all over, well rounded, made me think deep. Um, I don't forget some people, but then you know now Az, the founder of the brokerage I'm at now, he's
uh-huh.
just in the short amount of time that I've known him, he's poured so much into my life, just about the motivation that I need to the motivation to have the things that need to be done and strategies on how to do them to help grow my family, how to be the man of my household and the leader that not only my wife looks for, but also in the industry that I'm in, and
Uh-huh.
all the things that I'm already equipped with and that I desire to do, just now practical applications and doing the work that needs to get done to do it. And so it's been that's a short list of the people in there, and then you know, I think every so often with hard times and with good times and with decisions that I'm weighing out, your phone always rings. And so I
Yeah,
think every time we talk, it's at least a 45-minute to an hour conversation um, about life and different directions, and you pose really good questions. And so I think that the men that I've surrounded myself with throughout my real estate career, but also just in my life, really helped form me to where I am right now.
that's amazing. That's good insight. I picked up on something in there um, that three of your mentors have been the heads of your brokerages or founders of the brokerages that you've um, worked with, I should say, not necessarily for. Um, when you're searching for real estate brokerages and offices you want to align yourself, what are you looking for? At that moment in your career, because I think that's an
Yeah,
important question for a lot of people getting out into the business. Because real estate, in all facets, has a pretty high level of failure.
hmm
And if you want to be successful, you got to find the right path and the right people to guide you along the way.
yeah, Sean. I think success leaves clues, right?
Yeah.
And when when you are in an environment that fosters growth and that allows um, that provides the value for you to grow and to provide value for your clients, it's almost too easy because you but when you're in a place that you're just kind of there because you were told you were there, or you were there because of your splits, or you were there because of, I mean, fill in the blank, right? You don't really have like a passion to be there. You're just there because that's where you
Right.
were told, or it's the very first place that you went and you don't know what it looked like anywhere else, right? So um, for me, what I look for within a brokerage is mentorship and and successful people. So, and I don't measure success just on like closings or on the monetary aspect, like who's thriving in their life and what are they doing? Because I think success does leave those clues. And when you can surround yourself in that environment, I never want to be, and I never will be the best person in the room, right? Like I don't ever want to be like the smartest
Sure.
person or the wealthiest person or the, whatever it is, like accolades in the room. I'm always trying to be right there at the bottom and learn from those that are doing things better than me. And so I choose strategically who to surround myself with, and that leads for an interesting conversation. That's probably not too long for this, because when you start cutting people out of your life,
Mm,
because and making room for more people, like I said, success leaves clues, but also failure holds on to you, and space in your calendar and lack of direction really can cause harm. So when you focus on putting the right people in your life, it really helps. So when I look at brokerages, I don't really pay attention too much to splits, to um, systems or anything they offer. It's really about mentorship and where can I grow the most and grow the deepest relationships.
interesting. Um, how do you know when it's time to leave a brokerage? Then, in the same respect, or sorry, instead of being negative, time to find a new one.
Yeah, no,
Because I
it's a good
because I
question.
understand that when you leave, there's barriers to exit, right? If you have um, houses on the market or things in escrow, there's basically never a good time to leave. But as a home inspector watching the outskirts of markets and managing our CRM, I see people changing brokerages fairly often. So,
Yeah,
you know, it's got to be a tough decision, but something has to drive you out or in, right?
yeah.
Or
I
maybe
think
both sometimes.
I think um, success draws you in,
Yeah.
and fear makes you run away. And I think has to be a little bit of a mixture of both, like something negative or something that you don't feel fulfilled with, and then filled with something that could be better out there. And when you get those two together, and it takes a lot. For me personally, I don't recommend people just be like, all right, I'm just gonna keep on jumping for the next opportunity, because that's not necessarily what it's about. You should try to stay, if you're getting value, you're growing relationships, you're providing value um, to your environment, then stay as long as you continue to do that. But the moment when you feel like and not the moment you feel, the moment you feel it, you start analyzing it and you start getting into the actual asking yourself questions, writing them down, pros and
Mhm.
cons, talking to mentors and friends, like figuring out what is the best route for you. But the moment you start feeling that you're no longer valued, you're no longer getting value, and that there may be something else out there for you, is the time you should start analyzing what what are my pros and cons, what will happen, what's the outcome of me changing to a different brokerage, what other brokerages out there. And so, like I said, I don't recommend hopping around, but I also don't recommend staying somewhere that you aren't valued, you're not getting value. And one thing in our current culture and environment and our industry is, like, there's a lot of places that are going to continue to say, we're going to provide value and this, and this, and it's all like systems and CRMs and all these, like, kind of in the box cheap little fixes, like something that brokerage that they get sold as a brokerage owner or something. And that's not, you have to determine what the value is to you. Is value in systems and bells and whistles, or is it in the people you surround yourself with? And I think that's a question that you need to find out yourself, because it may be bells and whistles, like, hey, I don't have to pay for a CRM anymore because XYZ Realty provides it for me, and I don't have to, I don't have to buy my own planner because they give me a planner. I don't have, those little things. You have to understand, how often is that brokerage meeting with the people? How often are you getting time to meet with the other successful agents? How do they give you an opportunity to coach or teach other agents if you're being successful? They give you an opportunity to learn from more successful agents. And, like, those are all, like, questions that you can kind of ask, like, how open source is this brokerage? Are they going to share information that successful people are they going to share with us how they become successful? And so that's what
Hmm.
I'm looking for. That was a very long-winded answer, but
No, but it's a good answer, and you have some keys in there because the bells and whistles don't really matter if you don't have the motivation to use them.
Hmm.
So like, what's the point? So it sounds like to me, um, you've drawn out your experiences in an environment, and then it's time to kind of find a new one and learn a different way to look at things. It also sounds to me like you're you're not afraid to take that leap, and you're not necessarily unwilling to lose, some short-term monetary loss because you feel the vision of growth is beyond that, right? Is that and it seems is
Yeah,
that right? Yeah,
yeah. I think it's definitely a big feat to switch because you have signs and cards and marketing and all your platforms and your websites and just enough stuff to make you go crazy in your head that you have to switch
sure,
things. So yeah, I mean, there's you have to sacrifice for a little bit your sanity or your a little bit of monetary growth, knowing that the season that you're in is a season of growth already, and you're just planting the seeds for the upcoming harvest. And so, like right then and there, you may be noticing that you're hitting your head against the wall, it's changing over all your systems. But when you find somewhere that provides you value, you're going to end up a, growing a lot.
eventually, yeah. Good. That's amazing. Let's see. Let's talk about some of the hot button topics right now. So, given the current market conditions, which we all know are interesting to say the least right now,
That's what I
um,
use.
and they have been for probably the last 2 years or 3 years. How are you advising your clients and helping them to win right now? Um,
Yeah, great question. It's funny. People still ask me like, "Oh, is the market still crazy?" I'm like, "It absolutely is. Just a different type of crazy, right?" And so, I love that question. Like, how's the market doing? And like, it's crazy as ever. Oh, our house
yeah,
is still, our house is still appreciating like crazy. Nope, a different type of crazy. And
yeah,
so, um, the way that what I'm doing to advise clients, and it's very, very different for sellers and buyers. And in this market we're in right now, um, you really are. I feel like the advice you give the client depends so much on their personal needs
mm,
and what they desire and what their goals are. Because if people are asking me if they're going to buy something and they're going to sell it in a year or two, it might not be the best time to buy right now. But if they're
yeah,
saying I have a 5 to 10 year plan in this house and it's going to meet my needs for a long time, like strike while the iron's hot. Right now is going to be a great time because there's a lot of uncertainty in the rates and all this kind of stuff. So this podcast will be outdated next week with all the
sure,
things that if I go into specifics. But the biggest thing that I do to help with my clients on the buy side is help strategize ways for them to win and keep as much capital in their pocket. And
mm,
during the last 2.5 years, it was really hard to do that because you had to offer your firstborn child to get a house, and you had to go 100,000 over ask and all this crazy stuff. And so it's hard to keep capital in people's pockets when they had to win in the market. Now we're in such a sweet spot where buyers have an opportunity um, to win and get a house that they love with the upgrades they want that will meet their needs. They can grow their family and all that kind of stuff. So trying to keep capital in my client's pocket is like the number one strategy I work on, and I work with them about. And when I represent a seller, it's how to net the most and have good negotiations with that buyer. So it's not all about the list price, or it's not all about agent commission. It's all there's all these different buckets that people worry about. It's really how you can negotiate a solid contract and the marketing you need to do to get the right buyers in that house, so you can have good negotiations and you can have solid terms when you're selling your house.
huh. Yeah. Because
Does that
six
make
months
sense?
ago, yeah, it does, it does.
Okay.
I mean, 6 months ago to be a listing agent, you didn't have to do much marketing. You just had to put you sometimes you didn't even have to put a sign in the ground.
Yeah.
And you had people lining out, and there was somehow a whisper that the house is going to be for sale, and you already had 6 offers.
Yeah.
um, and that's quickly changed. In the last, I don't know, 3-4 months or so. By the time this is
Yep.
out, maybe 5 months. Um, and the strategies have changed. So almost, if you have a long term plan, it seems like it's a better time to be a buyer. Um, as long as you're comfortable with maybe writing the price down a little bit, or even a
Yeah.
lot, who knows? Um,
Yeah.
before it's all said and done. And I've always said too, interest rates are higher now, but they will come back down eventually.
Hmm.
So, if you buy now, there's creativity and incentives for people that buy. Agents are using, what are they? Mortgage rate
Yeah,
buybacks, or the seller.
yeah. So
Um,
there's like 2-1 buybacks or buy downs. There's
yeah.
concessions, which is an unknown word for most people that just got into the business.
Oh
But
yeah,
there are
yeah.
concessions. There's concessions being offered for
Sometimes we
closing
help with that.
costs. Exactly. Yeah, your industry helps us the most. You're the one
Yeah.
that gets us the concessions. Um, but yeah, I think, and to your point, interest rates are going to go down in the future. But before they go down, they're gonna go up.
Yeah.
Especially after the reports that just came out,
Yeah.
they're gonna go up when the Feds meet at the end of the month, almost without a doubt. Now, could be wrong. I'm not a fortune teller, but when the rates go up, then people are going to get put in a really tough spot because now
Yeah.
their monthly cost is going to go even further. Now, and the price cannot drop low enough of the houses that we have in our valley. The prices can't go low enough to offset the way the rates are going up. So like right now we're in that sweet spot where yes, rates have gone up. They're not as high as they're going to be, but also housing prices, because of the uncertainty, we're starting to see, like the median house price just went down $10,000 from June to July. And so
Wow.
so we were at 469 and now we're at 459. And so, like we're things, but in order to accommodate just today's rate, they have to be down like the 410s, 415. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Do you?
No, not for a little bit. I mean, not until this shakes out. But once that happens, there's you could refi, isn't it? Like every 6 months or every year or something like that. I mean, so as the rates start coming down, you can keep refining, and your refi mortgage person will love you for that. They'll keep getting paid.
Yeah, I could give you the answer, but my loan officer might not be happy.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. You can refi whenever you'd like, as often as you'd like. But you do have to pay fees and points. But yeah,
Yeah.
you can refi as much as you'd like, and it's a great opportunity to buy something now, and then in 2 to 3 years you can refinance and you get a lower payment. Your house
Yep.
now has equity, and you're in a good spot.
Yeah. That's interesting. What I as a home inspector, watching the market and the craziness last couple of years, people were getting in, um, to houses where they were so frantic to buy a house, they were getting in over their head with repairs and responsibilities that they really, um, didn't know enough about, because they had to make so many quick decisions.
Mm,
They had to go way over asking just to get the contract, and then they had to, have the inspection in 2 or 3 days. And then you mentioned earlier concessions. Concessions didn't exist, and so people kept saying, "I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait." And maybe that was a smart move. I mean, the price has gone up, but they're going to end up getting a better house, potentially a better house. I mean, you read articles about people that were buying in San Francisco and a whole walls full of mold, but they
no.
waived all inspections and everything, and it ends up costing them, I don't know, 150, $200,000 to fix it. And so, um, we even got into an environment where people were completely waiving inspections and appraisals, right? And just
Yeah.
going in all cash, heavy offers, and buying, 4, 5, 6, 7 $100,000 house and never even setting foot in it. So
Yeah. I
from a
think
buyer's,
that's in.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I think that's like indicative to the environment that we're in right now, and the way that we know the housing situation is going to go as crazy, because we still have a high percentage of buyers that are buying with cash. And back in
Yeah.
I think it's around 30% of purchases happening over the last year have been cash purchases. And back when the crash happened, less than 10%. They were all high leverage. So right now, houses aren't being leveraged as much, and a lot of the loans aren't. People have more cash on hand right now. But to your point, people buying all these houses last year and over the last couple of years, they're secondary homes, their investment properties. A lot. I mean, there's 36% of the houses that are on the market as of yesterday are vacant homes, and they've been bought in the last 18 months. And so
Interesting.
36% of our inventory right now are sellers or homeowners, I should say, that bought the house and they didn't really need the house. They wanted the house. They had plans for the house, but now they can sell it and they'll still make a profit, right? They're going to
Yeah.
make, maybe instead of the 19% profit they're hoping for, now they're going to make 15 or 14, which is still phenomenal for 18 months of ownership and anything. But it's a really interesting time that we're in, because we're seeing all these signs, but yet when we look at the data, there also shows how pumped up and authentic the market was from a cash perspective and leverage perspective. But then we're seeing these declining numbers of demand and increasing supply, and so we're like, oh crud, history's going to repeat itself, and history does. But I think we learned enough from it before to where now things aren't as leveraged as they used to be. So it's going to be a very interesting time. I'm quite excited to see what goes on over the next 12 to 18 months, because I know there's going to be great opportunity for several people that need the opportunity, and so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to open up a lot of buyers that got disenfranchised with the process and decided to rent for another year or two, because that was happening like crazy.
Tons.
So that is a core, right? Like how do you build successful relationships? So how do you lock in with those clients that maybe you were working with a year ago, but you haven't seen them for a year because they said, enough of this madness. And now this is your opportunity to reach back out to them and say, hey, things might be turning. People are, instead of 50 people at an open house, there's 2. You want to fire up the car and start go looking at houses, or?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think if you haven't talked to someone in a year, you probably already lost them. In my perspective, and my personal experience is, if you're not staying in relationship with people, then they're probably not going to use you, because people like to work with those that they like and trust, right? And so if they haven't heard from you except for that one time you were talking about houses a year ago, then they're not really going to like you or probably trust you, unless you built up a good brand recognition, and then they may have some trust, but the relationship isn't there yet. So the key word that I heard from you is like, how do you keep the relationship going from someone that was looking a year ago? And the way to keep a relationship going is communication, right? Like the way that you and I have stayed in a relationship over the last 5.5 years is through communication. It's not, we don't talk every day, but we talk probably at least once a quarter. Sometimes it's more frequent than not. And so I think that's that right there. The way that we keep our friendship is the same way you keep a relationship with a client, because if your goal is to ultimately serve them and help them, then you have to stay in touch with them, so you understand their needs and how things are changing with them. Because someone may tell you they're going to be looking next year, but then 6 months down the road, they're like, oh crud, things change. I'm really, something happened and I'm able to make a move sooner. So I'm gonna start looking. And you have it in your calendar. All right, talk to buyer 12 months from now. It's like, it's not a buyer. It's Carl who's looking 6 months from now or a year from now, and you're going to stay in a relationship with them. Carl's a fake name. Well, there are Carls, but
there are people in trouble.
not using that as an example, but it's just, you stay in a relationship with people. You don't just wait till they say they're ready to buy again, and then you call them or email them or poach them on social media. You stay in a relationship with them, and then they continue to respect you. They learn to like you, and they trust you as a professional in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I've always when I watch you work, you've never been afraid to do is pick up the phone and say hi, even to strangers. I remember seeing you navigate through a cold calling system. You were at one point, weren't you dialing like 3 people at a time? They'd pick up and hit them with a script, and I mean that's the hustle that gets you started, right? For sure, gets you momentum and gets you those first clients. Which once maybe you get your real estate license and you sell to your sister and your brother and your aunt, and then all of a sudden you're out of clients. You gotta find more, right?
Go
ahead.
Going into the dialer, just a quick insert. And times changed, but now times are going back to like they were in 2017, 2016.
Sure.
And I didn't have any, like my dad was the only family I had out here in Arizona, and he's lived in the same house since I was 12 years old. So he's not buying or selling with me. So everything had to, and then I got in when I was 22, I think. So none of my friends were, buying and, at that time. And so the way that I built my business was cold calling, door knocking, open houses, at open houses, cold calling, going to door knock before and after the open houses. And so like all of those things together built really strong foundation. And for years I used the open house and calling method. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it was a triple line dialer, and you get someone on the phone and you're talking to them. If another person answers the phone while you're on the phone with the one of the people, then there's a voicemail that gets dropped and it says, "I'll call you right back," and then you call them back right after your phone call, and just a cycle. And I think that grit, that determination, that effort is needed in this market now. An old dog like me, I need to get back into that, because as of
Sure.
recently, over the last 4 years, 3 years, um, I've been beyond blessed with clients that already know, like, and trust me, and they refer me out to their friends and family. And um, then I have other platforms that do lead generation for me. But ultimately, a lot of the people I work with are referrals from past clients or people in my sphere already.
Well, that's an evolution of your business. But the things that you mentioned that got you to start the business, that's hard stuff. I mean,
Oh
sitting at an
no.
open house isn't that hard, but sitting in, at least from my perception, right? Like people come to you and you tour around, but you were going out and getting people. You were getting on the phone and getting rejected constantly. I would have to imagine maybe you didn't. You had to develop scripts. You probably had some real thick skin, and it's hard after a while from somebody says, "Don't call me again." Maybe you got
Mm,
10 of those and you picked up the phone for the 11th time and kept calling and finding clients, and your business has evolved, and your sphere of influence has evolved where you're able to maybe get away from some of that. But in the wild west that we just had for the last 3 years, it was easy to get um, complacent with marketing. I
yeah.
think. What are some other techniques that you do or now plan to do to acquire clients, other
Yeah.
than the normal stuff?
Yeah. So currently I so I was born and then moved away, but raised mostly in Glendale, Arizona. And for
Uh-huh.
the first half of my career, I was tracing down the sexy zip codes and the over high price point areas, and I was still serving everybody everywhere, but I was focusing on 85254, 85260, and Troon, and a place you can't talk about now is Troon. But anyways, and then South Scottsdale, and all these areas that are very desirable. And it really I clicked about a year ago, 6 to 8 months ago, that I I was raised in Glendale. I live in Glendale. I'm in Arrowhead Ranch. Why would I sit there and try to go somewhere miles and miles away? Although I know the area very well because my offices were over there. I've worked there for years. Why would I try to go all the way over there for business when I have people in my neighborhood that need me? And
Uh-huh.
they do. They need me. I see houses all the time that are on the market that aren't selling right now, and it's because they didn't list with me. No, that's kind of a joke, but it's true. Like they all these people, all these clients that are potential clients that live in my neighborhood, they may not know me if I don't focus on them. So I um, started sending out postcards, started to think of different events to do in the neighborhood, and really focus on my area, and to serve those people that live close to me that are probably some people that I relate with well. And so that's one of the big things that I've been focusing on. My wife being in social media management and marketing and advertising, she's doing a lot for social media for us, and then pick up the phones with past clients and referrals is another thing. So those three things are kind of driving my business right now.
Yeah, sounds like focusing in the Glendale area has been big for you. Um,
Yes.
yeah, that's good. What you did mention social media, and I think social media is used well in the real estate industry, or heavily used in the real estate industry. Um, what's your favorite platform in social media currently?
My favorite platform is Instagram.
Yeah.
The one that I use, and I think that's the one. TikTok and Instagram are growing, and 8 months ago, you would not have heard me talk about TikTok. But my coach made me get a TikTok about 3 months ago, and get on a routine schedule with making videos and things of that nature. And there's some really serious potential with Instagram and TikTok. Facebook and LinkedIn are still like good resources, but not something that I really spend too much time on.
Yeah.
But yeah, Instagram and TikTok are growing like crazy.
But when you're on that, it's easy to get trapped in the path of just scrolling through. What are you doing when you're on social media? Like, what's your strategy through there?
I'm blowing my wife up with videos of
Yeah.
trending sounds, and then we meet once a week and we go. So I watch reels of other successful real estate agents,
Okay.
or
Cool.
I look for trending sounds or trending effects, and then I will send them over to her, and then we'll meet and we'll come up with ideas of what videos to make. And then we'll make videos that have that sound in the background, that are the trend that's going on right there. And then from that, I try to create value in the videos that I put out, because the day of asking for people's business without providing anything are well beyond gone.
Sure.
Providing as much value and free insight as you possibly can for people is what attracts them to you. If you can be a resource for someone in Wichita, and they somehow, they found out they have family that's moving to Arizona, they're like, hey, I saw this guy on Instagram, and I think he works in Arizona. He always talks about it.
Yeah.
You should check him out. And then you get a DM saying, hey, I'm coming into town. Are you interested? Some of my best clients, my favorite people, came from the C word that we're not allowed to talk about here in Arizona. Came from California. They found me on
Yeah.
Instagram, and they have, not only did they buy a house here, their sister bought a house, and three of their friends they referred me to, and their friends are starting to refer me, and their friends are starting.
Wow.
And so just from Instagram, that was a source that just keeps on giving. And all I do is, not even regularly, as regular as I should, just provide value for people, give them updates, give them something to laugh at. Sometimes that is value, right? Giving
Yeah.
someone just something to laugh about and get them kind of away from the stress of the day, can be value. But I do try to focus on real estate value for people.
Interesting. Yeah, because that was going to be my next question. Have you ever developed a lead directly? And the answer sounds like it's a resounding yes. But it's
Yes.
also, I mean, there's marketing, or there's lead acquisition, and then there's branding, right? Like, it's also a way of reaching out to people in your sphere that maybe you talked with 6 months ago, um,
Mhm.
that you haven't circled back around with because you've been busy, because the market was busy, uh,
Yeah,
and maybe they dropped off, but now they still remember that you exist. Um,
I think it's huge. If you're
so
not if you're
it's
not doing videos right now, you're gonna be left behind. And like
yeah,
adding every single person you meet at open houses or anything, if you're not adding people to your sphere on your social media platform, and then you're not posting regularly, you're gonna be left behind.
so you're saying that TikTok is not just dances.
I mean, all I do on there is dance, but I don't
Oh, is
know.
that
I
right? Yeah.
mean, no. There is some very insightful information on TikTok. I have several friends that have great TikTok channels. So, I don't know if that's the right term to use.
I don't
That
either.
are just, yeah, that are just doing great, providing financial information, loan information, and what's happening in the lending world, real estate information, fun tips and tricks. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff on there. And personally, I don't scroll through TikTok. I mean, I think I follow like 6 people,
Yeah,
um, and 5 of the 6 are going to be people that like tell you the trends that are coming up. And
sure.
so, I don't scroll it, but I utilize it and I make videos on it. And so Instagram is probably by far the one that I utilize the most as far as interaction with people. But TikTok is supposed to be something that's really growing. haven't made the 100% leap. I post to it, but I don't check it, if that makes sense.
Here's my realization on TikTok. We have a virtual assistant who's based in the Philippines that works with us. And you're going through the specific interview questions, and you get to the one where it's a pretty standard interview question. If you're presented with a question that you don't know the answer to, what do you do? And what are your resources? And in a batch of like 5 people, all 5 of them said they go to TikTok for answers.
Wow.
And my mind was just blown because there's a segment of I don't even know if I remember what it's called, like TikTok U or TikTok Learn or something like that. And it used to be YouTube. The answer used to be YouTube or Google, and now they all go to TikTok. So
That's
if you want
powerful.
powerful, yeah, that's interesting. And I don't specifically know what it is, but I do know it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's crazy. I did not know that. That's really that's good to know that people choose to go on TikTok to learn. There's
Yeah,
so many helpful things on there. And so but I had no idea that people used to use the term, or still do use the term Googling even whenever they search.
yeah,
Imagine 10, 15 years from now, people are going to be like, I'm going to go TikTok
TikTok.
that.
That's what they said. Um,
Wow.
let's shift gears real quick because I want to be respectful of your time. And let's ask. I got to bring back to a couple home inspector questions too.
Yes.
So, as a buyer's agent, which you've represented a lot of buyers, what do you like the most, and what do you like the least about home inspectors or inspections?
Well, it's been 5 years since I've used any other inspector. I think almost consistently. I don't think I've had a single buyer that hasn't used y'all, and not because I forced them to. It's completely their opinion, but a lot of people rely on us as agents to provide them with professionals that we trust. And so one thing I can't stand about inspections, though, and I know you said as a buyer's agent, the only way
Yeah,
I can really relate to is from listing and seeing inspection reports from other inspectors. It's the only experience I have from other inspectors. I'm not saying that
sure.
to blow smoke. I'm loyal. I promise, Sean. Um, no, the one thing I think is hard is when you see an inspection report that has almost no pictures. There's absolutely no videos, and it's all
Mm,
just words. And the lack of information that provides that buyer puts them in a disadvantage and could and mostly causes fear and discomfort, and so they end up backing out or not going through with that home purchase because they didn't have an inspector that was there walking them through the um, the ins and outs of what they found on the property, whether it's major or minor. Um, it's up to the client to tell or to say whether it's major or minor, right?
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but a lot of the times that I see from on the list side with inspection reports is the inspector never spent that time with them. They're in and out quickly. Um, they don't have a system put together um, to guide the buyer through the process. And what I like most, you said like it most and dislike the most, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Or so, and what I like most is like the system that you have, where there's videos of every single room of everywhere on the house, gives them a great walkthrough. But then your your team and your company, they're there for questions to be answered nonstop. And so clients month down the road can call you guys up and ask you, hey, I found that, I just saw this, was did you guys find it? Or I had a question about when you mentioned this part, I'm about to fix it.
Sure.
What can you walk me through it? And you guys, not instead of saying, oh, I don't know, that was a long time ago, you go through that inspection report, you get back to them, and most of the time it's you personally or people or the inspector that did the property, which is
Yeah.
really rare. It's not just someone in back of the house, doing something or in the back office. And so um, I think that is extremely powerful. And the way that you guys walk through the house with clients, I have such a low fallout rate because with my buyers, and most of the time, as we know, like I think it's 80 something percent of contracts that fail within the first 10 days. And
Yeah.
it's because that's your due diligence period. And
Right.
so you you and your team have made it to where my success is higher because the way that you walk the clients through the process, you show them the home, and you stay there for sometimes hours to answer their questions. And so, sorry to tell people that you give hours of your time out for an
Yeah.
inspection, but
Well, thank
but
you.
I think that's what and I only know, I had a couple of inspectors prior, but it's been so long that it wouldn't be fair for me to try to pull from my memory for that. But I can just speak on what I see now on the list side and inspections coming in, and then what you do to provide for the buyers that we have.
Perfect. Well, thank you for the kind compliments. And then you linked basically the next question was, as a listing agent, most and least about that. So you kind of just coupled them all.
I promise I didn't read the answers or the questions
No.
before.
What are some things that you've learned about houses working with home inspectors, though?
I mean, I'm a full blown contractor now because of you guys. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I've learned countless countless items to pick up, and like a lot of what I do now when I talk with clients and we're walking through houses is I have been to enough of the inspection reports and the wrap ups with you guys that I know kind of what's pointed out, and I don't take on your role and I don't step outside of my scope of expertise, but I'm able to say, like, you know what, that might be something that is called out in the inspection report, and not saying it's an issue or anything, but that could be called out and that could be called out, and this is something that you could be looking for. And I mean, AC, you've helped me read the dates of AC models and just know the difference and where to find the date when it was manufactured, and that comes in handy. And although you preface it with that blanket statement, hey, this could be the year. However, I'm not a home inspector, so when they inspect the house, they'll tell
Sure.
you. But just knowing, ages of when things start to go out and when they quit working, when things should be probably repaired and replaced, ways that things should function. You guys don't just tell people what's wrong. You also, on most instances, can show them how it's done right and what the fix could be. And so all those things have been so valuable that, I mean, I use them. I can't tell you just one thing that I've learned from the home inspection process.
That's amazing. That really makes me smile because I've been, for like the last 6 to 8 months, I've been thinking about concepts of coaching and education for real estate agents, because I think if you can start setting expectations while you're touring a client through the house of things that could possibly come up in the inspection report, when they finally get that document and have that opportunity to review the house with the inspector, it'll be less of a knee-jerk reaction. It'll be more like a, hey, I kind of already expected all that, instead of like a, wow, this house is in rough shape, and that way you're going in mostly or partially educated, entering into that contract, and you're assuring better success on the back end of it. Now, we may discover some stuff up in the attic, or a torn roof or something that you may not have been able to point out, but I think it's powerful that you're utilizing that experience to better your clients and their experience and make stronger offers.
You just brought up the attic. One thing that's huge here in Arizona is like the shingled roof, the 2 layers, and the third one would have to be fully replaced. Like, that's something newer agents or any agents out there that doesn't know that, it's extremely powerful, because adding a second layer of shingles on a roof is fairly inexpensive in the grand scheme of things, but having to tear everything off and redo it is an expensive one. So when someone says, oh, the age of the roof is going bad, okay, well, is it on its first layer or second layer? And like, having that type of knowledge is so impactful. And you brought up a really good you're posing really good thoughts that you're wanting to create a bigger impact and creating education and knowledge for people. And what I always tell every single buyer and seller is that my goal is to create an educated buyer and educated seller, because I believe that makes a strong market, right? That's what makes a good market to be in, is when you have educated sellers and educated buyers. And then one step further within your realm is if you have educated professionals in the industry, educated agents about the process, think about how much value they bring to their buyers and sellers when they can walk through and say, hey, you're probably going to want to fix that because it'll get called out. And this is what I see in inspection reports that really cause the most fear or cause concern.
Sure.
So you should
ahead of
fix it before, and get ahead of that. Don't put a Band-Aid on it, but actually fix it, because the Band-Aid will be found. And so you're like, do it, keep doing Band-Aid. And if you could provide a clean inspection report where there's nothing wrong in the house, I'm sure you guys would absolutely love that. But unfortunately, every house has something wrong with it that you guys get to really pride yourself in finding, and you all do a fantastic job of finding every little thing. So the information you can provide to agents would be phenomenal. I still don't know everything, so you can count me in on that.
Me neither. I mean, ultimately, if you look at the optics of the relationship between an agent and a home inspectors, our goals are the same. An agent's looking to put somebody into a house or sell a house, and a home inspector is also trying to help the right person to buy the house. And if we share our knowledge and work together on that success rate can certainly go up. Or sometimes it's not the right house for the person. And that has to be discovered too. I've seen people cancel a contract because the inside of the house was great. Simply, they just said, they walked in, they said, this isn't home, and they moved on.
It took you to tell them the house was gray?
it was no, it was a brand new house. This is awesome. I appreciate your time. I love books. Hit me with 3 books that you would recommend the audience. You can't turn around and look at your bookshelf either.
How to Win Friends and Influence People is a game changer. We're going through that right now. Hey, see, I'm at an unfair advantage. You're facing your bookshelf. I should have done that. How to Win Friends and Influence People is a game changer. We're going through that with we have a Tuesday night Bible study at our house, and we chose to do alternate between a book of the Bible and then a book that will be, it's called Young Professionals group that we have. And so one book to help our businesses and one book to help with our faith and whatnot. And so we have this good balance of learning and growing. And so How to Win Friends and Influence People, Who Moved My Cheese would be really good in this market. And then something that I really liked was Man in the Mirror. And Man in the Mirror is by Patrick Last name starts with an M. It's a faith-based book from a Christian author, but he really poses you really good questions. So if you want to think about yourself, and really think about how to better yourself as in your house, in your career, in your life, he poses really good questions for you to think about.
Awesome.
So those are the 3. I won't add any more.
Well done. Where can people find Kevin and the Valle Home Group outside of just Gladue? Kevin Valle Home Group.
You just said my what is it? Username? No, what is it called? Handle. There we go. Yeah, it's Kevin _ Valle Home Group, or Valle Home Group without a Y. And that's on every platform. And if simply you type in Valle Home Group and it's Valle without the Y, you'll see everything that pops up for me. But Kevin _ VALLE Home Group is where you'll see a lot of stuff on Instagram and TikTok and all those fun hip places.
Do you want to give your email address out?
Why would I do that? Why would I do something like that? No, it's actually the exact same, Kevin@ValleHomeGroup.com. So
there you go.
Everything's very simple.
I think that's called branding. Well done.
Yeah.
You may have had help in that. Why don't you plug your wife's business too?
Oh yeah, and that's Valle Marketing. So if you do Valle Marketing on same way you spell it without the Y, then you'll find her on Instagram as well.
Perfect.
So,
Kevin,
anyone that needs any social media management, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say thank you for your time, and I really, as always, appreciate this conversation, and I'm glad we had the opportunity to record it.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it, man. It's always a pleasure.
Look out for this guy.
Thank you for listening to Just Another Real Estate Podcast. For the latest episodes, please subscribe and be sure to follow Dwell Inspect Arizona on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. To contact Dwell Inspect Arizona, call us at 480-867-4599. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, email our team at office@dwellinspectaz.com.